Another one is with Baptist Health in Little Rock, chronic disease management, and it's real simple. It's like you have a glucometer that you Bluetooth for chronic disease. And they're using this internal for their own staff, both for sort of staff. But this stuff is generalizing all the time, because one of the big things in healthcare, and this is a collaboration thing, is chronic disease management, where, how does someone, just basically take a monitor them, whether it's, blood pressure or glucometer or whatever, and all you do is Bluetooth it and you can upload it. And then all of a sudden, instead of having somebody visit and do all that kind of stuff, it's a bit updated, if you will. And then at that point, you can invoke the collaboration schemes digitally of a hospital or a nurse that says, okay, well, do this or whatever. And it's a 5-minute sort of call or message rather than having, invoking the whole system, somebody coming there, coming back, going in, invoking the system, checking in, and all of that. And so really this is about process reengineering, but it's very simple. It's just a Bluetooth pairing of some kind of sensor. And then all of a sudden you have a secure tunnel, and this is just a terminal extension, but it changes absolutely everything. Another thing in healthcare is they give alerts, paging much more about lab stuff. Well, that's very, very interesting. So now when you have a lab telemetry, or you have a client doing their own monitoring, and it comes into some kind of composite app like the Ingenious folks are doing, and then all of a sudden you have event-driven stuff like, yikes, the numbers are higher than they expected. Quickly, let's look at their record here. And most of these big organizations have decision support stuff where they'll suggest, A and B means you got to look at C. And they can suddenly invoke the system that says, get this person in and reserve this thing, and all of that kind of, collaboration. So it's telemetry, patient record and decision support, invoking some kind of action, and then a collaborative thing thereafter. And this is all basically latent, 95% of this in most systems. It's really about grabbing the enablers, and it's also about dealing with incentives. And some companies have organizational inertia. I don't know if you've ever encountered that, but it's really about working with incentives and modifying process and process reengineering. It's really not about technology. And please hear carefully what I try to say up front is the enablers have profoundly enhanced in virtualization, services, cloud, and mobility. And so how do you deploy those? And I would respectfully submit that with a fresh set of eyes is appropriate, not to just be tunnel visioned by a legacy set of constructs. Also in the Wi-Fi world, most of these organizations have Wi-Fi, and so we have, and this is Oklahoma Heart, but this is happening really throughout the country, where you have on-prem Wi-Fi, and now everyone who's on-prem is using Wi-Fi, synchronized. That's fixed mobile, and they have a data plan where they can go off-site with the Verizons and AT&Ts, and you're integrated to your patient records. You're integrated to your telephony and your alerting system. And all of a sudden, everybody's an event-driven, collaborative, access to information, knowledge worker. And that game is all about really immediacy, which is alerting, and collaboration. And sure, a little bit of decision support and records, but it's really much more about the black art of collaboration, and it's about the quick immediacy of information and invocation of activity. It's that collaborative immediacy thing is, quite frankly, more than half the equation, but I'm being polite to say half. And the other part is definitely digital records. They both matter, but the digital records, as we say in Canada, hog the puck, and really it's got to be about the holistic nature of how you do what you do. And I thought I'd put in a couple fun apps from around the world in agriculture, because it shows how you you process re-engineer. And what happens is apparently palm trees are very, very susceptible to disease. And they're really, really, really expensive. Like, I had no idea people spend this much for a palm tree. Like, they're really expensive. And so what happens is they have to monitor, and what they do is they tag the trees, and they geotag them as they go around and monitor. And so they know the location of every tree, its status, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because it's all about monitoring, infectious, outbreaks of diseases for these highly valuable, highly sensitive, but highly beautiful trees. And this has absolutely been transformative in this industry in Spain. One that's been quite fun for me, because we're up to 12,000 farmers, but it's really growing, is they have these co-ops in Argentina, and they're huge. And the key is your life is with a co-op, really, and they have an exchange where you sell your goods, you procure your supplies there, you have logistics with them. And so what the co-op did is they wrote an app. So you've got the email thing, you've got the phone thing, and it's the only internet terminal most of these farmers ever had. But this is how they manage their farm. It's really about, spot prices of commodities and procuring logistics and procuring supplies and managing logistics and also best practices in farming. And this has transformed radically how they farm. And what it is, it's access to information on your belt. And so this one, it just was unforeseeable that a co-op would write an app like that. And then you just sort of get that, normal internet messaging voice thing, and you get this co-op, you really have co-op on your belt. And that changes the whole farming experience. And then I'm just going to do a couple more things just on the B2C stuff, because the B2C gets a lot of attention, but I like transformative applications. I mean, I'm much more into depth of applications for transformative rather than just simple, kind of titillating kind of apps. And so, what I'm going to try and do is talk about how you change that. And we certainly have App World, and we have thousands of apps and so many millions of users in different ways. But for instance, does anyone here use Blackberry Messenger? Do you guys use Blackberry Messenger? Yeah. And what does that do? I mean, that's a depth application, because what it does is it gives push of a message, and it gives status as it delivered. And you can also now, attach pictures and make comments to them, but also, and media sharing, but also you can do it in groups. So included in groups is not just, publishing your stuff to groups, but you can now sort of have calendar events. So when you have that personal calendar, that presentation layer, you may have a work calendar, and all of you know how you do the wireless calendars at work, but you can now do that in your social groups. And so you may have, because you don't like to put your social stuff on your work calendar, it's kind of like, I don't want you to know what I do on the weekends, but I need it in my calendar. And so you can have these disparate calendar systems to different groups, yet they come together at the presentation layer, yet they're pushed and secure on their own world. And so that actually creates an environment that is personally, I think, very, very satisfying. And so the Messenger and the new groups capability has actually just changed that social collaboration, because it gives you contextualization of delivery and immediacy of push, and it also has native integration to other apps like Calendar and so on. So again, not giving you something you didn't have before, messaging and Calendar, yet through the nature of the communication, the nature of the access, it fundamentally changes things. Here's another thing that I personally have been involved in and quite enjoy is you can get the personal internet radio on your belt with Slacker, but the most important thing is it's highly contextualized to you, but that's not that new. But what's most important is it has a cache, so you can have literally thousands of songs cached up so that it doesn't need to be streamed. And yet it's highly personal, and each time you use it, it adapts more. And as well, you have things where this is an HD TV, this is a plasma TV in your pocket.